Sometimes love doesn't end with goodbye. It lingers quietly, in letters, in sunlight, in memories we never planned to keep. Tonight, I'll tell you a story about two souls who taught us that letting go isn't weakness. It's love's purest form, a story of Keanu and Sandra and their final sunrise. Before we begin, take a deep breath, sit comfortably, and listen with your heart, because this story might stay with you forever. Los Angeles was quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that follows a storm, when even the air seems to hold its breath. Backstage at a charity event, Keanu Reeves sat waiting for his name to be called. The hall outside was bright with laughter and music. Cameras flashed. People clapped. But inside, Keanu's world was still. His heart wasn't at the event. It was somewhere else, 2 years behind him, with a woman he hadn't seen since their last goodbye. Her name was Sandra. Their paths had crossed many times in the world of movies and fame, but what they shared was more than friendship. It was quiet understanding, two gentle souls who found peace in each other's company. But time, distance, and unspoken pain had pushed them apart. When the host called her name, Keanu's chest tightened. The crowd rose in applause. Sandra walked onto the stage, graceful and calm as ever, her smile soft and kind. She began her speech about compassion and helping others, but halfway through, her eyes found him. For a second, her words faltered. It was only a heartbeat, but both felt it, the invisible thread that still connected them. After her speech, she stepped down. The crowd cheered, but Keanu barely heard them. Their eyes met. She hesitated, then walked toward him. "I didn't think you'd come," she whispered. "I couldn't stay away," he replied. Before they could say more, the host called Keanu's name. He smiled faintly, apologetically. "Wait for me after," he said softly. She nodded. That tiny moment, so fragile, so full of what-ifs, was the kind that could change everything. When his turn was over, Keanu looked for her. But Sandra was gone. Only a folded envelope lay on the table backstage, his name written in her handwriting. Inside, a note. "Dear Keanu, I wanted to tell you this face to face, but maybe words are safer here. I'm leaving Los Angeles for good. I've accepted a project overseas, not for fame, but because I need to start over. You once told me peace matters more than anything, and now I finally understand. Please don't try to find me, Sandra." Keanu read the letter again and again. Each word felt like a door closing. The next morning, Keanu sat by his window, sleepless. The city outside looked the same, but everything inside him had changed. Why did her words sound like a farewell too heavy for a simple move? Then came another envelope, this time delivered to the studio where he worked. It was dated 2 days before the event. His hands shook as he opened it. "Dear Keanu, there's something I didn't tell you. I've been diagnosed with a condition that needs long-term treatment overseas. I didn't want you to worry. You've already carried too much pain in your life. Please don't think my silence means I stopped caring. I just didn't want you to watch me fade. Sandra." He stared at the page for a long time. So this was why she left, why her voice trembled that night, why her smile hid so much pain. His friend Alexandra, who worked closely with him, noticed his pale face. "She's sick, isn't she?" she asked softly. He nodded. "And she didn't want me to know." Alexandra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then maybe you shouldn't chase her. Maybe you should be ready when she decides to be found." But that night, Keanu couldn't rest. He reread the letters, tracing the familiar handwriting. Each word felt unfinished, as if Sandra had left behind more than goodbyes. And then, he noticed something. In an old photo of them from years ago, Sandra wore a silver bracelet with a tiny star charm. During her recent speech, she'd been wearing it again. That wasn't an accident. It was a message. The next day, Keanu went to the small art gallery downtown, the same place where he and Sandra had first met. The owner, a kind old woman named Clara, smiled when she saw him. "It's been years, Mr. Reeves," she said warmly. "You just missed Sandra. She came here last week, bought a painting of Tuscany, said it reminded her of peace." Keanu's heart skipped. "Tuscany?" Clara nodded. Then she handed him a small postcard Sandra had left behind. If you ever understand, the note read. On the other side was a picture of a Tuscan hillside, golden fields, quiet skies, and one old farmhouse in the distance. He didn't hesitate. By nightfall, he was on a plane to Italy. Tuscany was everything the picture promised: soft air, golden light, and a silence that healed. Keanu drove through winding roads until he saw the farmhouse. Olive trees framed it like a dream. He knocked on the wooden door, heart pounding. And then she opened it. Sandra stood there, fragile but glowing in the sunlight. "Keanu," she whispered, "you said not to find me." "I know," he said, "but you knew I would." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You shouldn't have come." "But you knew I would," he repeated gently. She stepped aside and let him in. The house smelled of lavender and paint. Canvases leaned against the walls, soft landscapes full of light. "You're painting again," he said. "It helps me breathe," she smiled faintly. He turned toward her. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" "Because I didn't want my illness to become your burden," she said softly. "You've already suffered enough." He shook his head. "You weren't another burden. You were the only one who made it hurt less." Her eyes filled. "You don't know how long I've wanted to hear that." They stood in silence as sunlight shifted across the floor. She whispered, "You came all this way. What do you want from me?" "I just want to be where you are," he said. "No promises, no expectations, just time." She smiled through tears. "Love isn't about forever, is it?" He shook his head. "No, it's about now." Before she could answer, a voice called from outside. It was Alexandra. Keanu turned, surprised. "What are you doing here?" She looked uneasy. "You need to see this." She handed him her phone. The screen showed a headline. "Foundation funds under investigation. Sandra Bullock named in donation error." Sandra froze. "It's not what it looks like," she said quickly. "Then tell me," Keanu urged gently. She took a deep breath. "Money was sent to the wrong charity account. My signature was on the papers. It looks like I approved it, but I didn't. I trusted someone who used my name." Alexandra's voice trembled. "The man who forged it, he's here in Italy. The same person Sandra's been protecting." Keanu's jaw tightened. "Protecting him? Why?" Sandra's voice cracked. "He's the son of a woman who once saved my career. I didn't want to ruin his life. I thought if I took the blame, the story would fade quietly." Keanu stepped closer. "So you'd destroy yourself instead?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Maybe that's what I deserve." He held her gently. "No one deserves that, not you." Alexandra's voice softened. "We can fix this, but we have to go to the authorities." Sandra nodded slowly. "Okay. After that, I'm done running." As the sun set behind the hills, Keanu and Sandra sat side by side. "Thank you for finding me," she whispered. "You don't find people to judge them," he said quietly. "You find them to remind them they're worth finding." But Alexandra knew something more, something she hadn't told him yet. A final letter, hidden deep in the Foundation's files. That night, after Sandra went to rest, Alexandra handed Keanu a folded paper. "I wasn't sure if I should show you this," she said softly. "Sandra wrote it weeks before she left Los Angeles." Keanu opened it slowly. "Dear Keanu, I've written this a dozen times and torn it apart. I'm not just leaving because of my illness or the Foundation. I'm leaving because I can't let you watch me fade. You've already known too much pain. I want you to remember me as I was, alive, laughing, full of light. If you ever find love again, don't hold back because of me. Sandra." Keanu's hands shook. "She knew," he whispered. "She planned it all," Alexandra said gently. "Maybe she wasn't running away. Maybe she was giving you a gift, a goodbye without regret." He looked at the fire. "But she took away my chance to say goodbye, or gave you the chance to remember her in peace," Alexandra replied softly. Upstairs, soft footsteps approached. Sandra stood by the doorway, shawl wrapped around her shoulders. "You found it," she whispered. He nodded, eyes wet. "Why didn't you send it?" "Because if you read it, you'd come after me anyway," she said gently. "And I needed to let you go." He shook his head. "You think walking away makes it kinder?" No, she said, voice trembling. But it makes it easier to remember you smiling. He took her hand. And what about me? I wanted to stay. She looked down. I thought it would destroy you. It would have saved me, he said. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Sandra whispered, Promise me you'll keep turning pain into peace. He nodded. I promise. The next morning, the sky over Tuscany turned gold. Sandra lay in bed, her hand resting in Keanu's. Her breathing was soft, slower now. You're still here, she whispered. I always keep my promises, he said gently. She smiled faintly. Look, the light. It's beautiful, isn't it? It is, he whispered. After a long pause, she said quietly, Do you think love ends when we do? He shook his head. No, I think it just finds a new place to live. Her eyes glistened. Then I'll never be gone. He smiled through tears. No, you won't. As the first rays of sunlight touched the room, Sandra whispered, It's perfect. I want to remember it like this. You will, he said softly, and then her fingers relaxed in his hand. The light wrapped her in gold. Weeks later, the Tuscan farmhouse became a quiet artist's retreat, just as Sandra had dreamed. Keanu funded it quietly, naming it the Sunrise House. He visited often not to grieve, but to sit in the garden where she once painted and listen to the wind in the olive trees. One morning, as dawn broke, he whispered to the sky, You were right, Sandra. Love doesn't end. It just moves to another home. And for the first time, he smiled, not because the pain was gone, but because love had learned to breathe again.